Alright, so this is your study guide for quiz number 9. And number 1 here. Which congruent statement does not necessarily describe the triangle shown if triangle DEF is congruent to triangle FGH? Alright? What they're going to do, they're going to reorder the letters, and you have to pick the answer where they did not reorder the vertices correctly. Okay? So answer A says that triangle EDF. And what I do on this type of problem is I ask myself, how did they change EDF from DEF? Alright? EDF means they went middle letter, first letter, third letter. You see that? From DEF to EDF. The E went first, the D went second, and the F went last, which means that in this second description it's got to go GFH, and it does. It goes GFH. So they changed both descriptions the same way. So that would describe congruent triangles. Alright? The question is, what does not? So this would not be a correct answer. Then they took DEF and they changed it to FDE. So they went last letter, first letter, middle letter. Last, first, middle. And in this second description, they went first, second, third. They didn't change this second description at all from the FGH, did they? So that would be an example of not being congruent. Alright? If this is still a little confusing to you, look at this. They go EFD, EFD. So they went second, third, first. GHF. GHF is second, third, first. So they changed both of the orders the same way. So that's not a correct answer. And then this FED. They reversed the letters. They just listed them backwards, which means on the second description they would have to reverse the order of the letters, and they did. They went HGF. So answer B is the only statement that does not describe the triangle shown. Alright, number 2 says if triangle MNO is congruent to triangle PQR, which of the following can you not conclude as being true? Again, it's not true. Which statement is not true? Okay? So they're saying that MN is congruent to PR. Alright, look, MN, first two letters, congruent to PR, first and last letter. Right off the bat, that cannot be true. Let's look at the rest of these to check them. M is congruent to P. M is first, P is first. Alright, so that would be true. So that's not a correct answer. NO is congruent to QR. NO is the second and third letter, congruent to the second and third letter. So that would be true. And N is congruent to Q. N is the middle letter, and it's going to be congruent to the middle letter. Alright, so answer A right there. If BCDE is congruent to OPQR, then DE is congruent to DE. That's the last two letters. It's got to be congruent to the last two letters. So that's going to be QR. What would CE be congruent to? PR, good. Alright, it's all in the order of the vertices. Just pay attention to the order of the vertices. Alright, number 2 on the short answer. What other information do you need? What other information do you need to prove the triangle is congruent using the SAS congruence postulate? SAS, that's side, angle, side. Alright, side, angle, side. You need a side, an angle, and a side congruent to a side, an included angle, and a side. So look, you've got this side. You got a triangle right here on the left. You got ACB. And then you've got a triangle on the right, ACD. Okay? Both triangles share side AC. And BC is congruent to CD. So, you got two sides that are congruent to each other. You got the side and the side. What other information do you need? Well, in side, angle, side, if you've got two of the sides, what else do you need? You need an angle, don't you? And it's got to be the included angle. Okay? So that means it has to be this angle down here. Right here and here. Those two angles have to be equal to each other. So now this is a hint for you. If those two angles, you got this angle right here, this angle right here, if I separate them, they form a line, don't they? So what do they have to add up to? They got to add up to 180, and they have to be the same as each other. So they both got to be 90 degrees, don't they? And if two lines intersect at 90 degrees, what are those lines called? It forms a right angle, but aren't the lines called perpendicular? This is a tricky question. Be careful of the answers tomorrow. Alright? If they tell you the two lines need to be perpendicular, that means the lines are going to form two 90-degree angles, one on each side of the vertical line. Alright, number 3. Find the measure of DCB. So let's find it first. Here's DCB. We're looking for this angle. Given, angle A is congruent to angle F. A is congruent to F, so that angle A is congruent to F. B is congruent to E. And the measure of CDE is 46 degrees. CDE, this angle right in here, is 46 degrees. So, can you guys picture taking these two triangles and pulling them apart left to right? If you take this triangle and slide it this way, and you take this triangle and slide it that way, they could pull apart from each other, right? Isn't angle D the same as angle C over here? Alright, you got two angles in one triangle congruent to two angles in another triangle. That means the third angles are congruent. So the measure of angle DCB is equal to 46 degrees. Triangle ABC is congruent to blank. Triangle ABC. Look at the order of the arc marks. Triangle ABC is congruent to. If they listed A as the first vertex and it has 3 arc marks in it, what does the first vertex have to be for the second triangle? It's got to be the M because it's got 3 arc marks. So this is going to be... Actually, wait a minute. I'm reading. This is angle ABC. Alright. Angle ABC is right here. It's not triangle. It's angle ABC. Angle ABC is congruent to, angle B has the one arc mark in it, doesn't it? So it's got to be congruent to this angle right here. And they went ABC, so they went from 3 to 1 to 2 arc marks. So we're going to call it angle M and P. 3 arc marks to 1 arc mark to 2 arc marks. Alright, number 5, given triangle QRS is congruent to triangle TUV. QS is equal to 3V plus 2 and TV is equal to 7V minus 6. Find the length of QS and TV. So you need the length of QS and TV. So look, in your description, QS is the first and third letter. TV is the first and third letter. They're both in the same positions, which means those two segments are congruent to each other. So you're going to make 3V plus 2 equal to 7V minus 6. And now you need to solve for V, so subtract 3V from each side. And then add 6 to each side. So 8 is going to equal 4V, and then divide by 4. And 2 is equal to V. Now, just be careful, because if it's going to be a multiple choice quiz, and one of the first answers may be 2. But that's not the question. The question wasn't to solve for V, it was to find the length of QS and TV. So you can go back to either expression and substitute. So I'm going back to QS. It's going to be 3 times 2 plus 2, which is 6 plus 2, which is 8. So QS is equal to 8. And QS and TV are equal to each other. So both the length of QS and TV, they're both 8 units. Number 6, ask you to state whether triangle ABC and triangle AED are congruent. Justify your answer. So let's look at triangle ABC. It's right here. Triangle ABC is right there. Triangle AED is right here. Alright, they both have a side that is 7 units long. They both have a side with 2 tick marks. And they both have a side with 1 tick mark. So state whether they are congruent. Well, yes, they're congruent. It says to justify your answer. Alright, well, yes, they're congruent. They're congruent by side, side, side congruence, aren't they? If 3 sides of one triangle are congruent to 3 sides of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. But now, don't miss out on this. Alright? They each had a side with 7. Then they had a congruent angle. And then they had a congruent side with 1 tick mark. So aren't they also congruent by side included angle and a side? Alright, so yes, by side, 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 and side, angle, side. Alright, they're congruent by both. Number 7, very similar to a problem we just did. It says that given triangle ABC is congruent to PQR, the measure of angle B is equal to 3y plus 4. The measure of angle Q is equal to 8v minus 6. Find the measure of B and the measure of Q. So they want the measure of B and the measure of Q. Look where the B is in this description. And if you look where the Q is in this description. They're both the middle letter in their respective descriptions. So they're congruent to each other. So your 3v plus 4 is equal to your 8v minus 6. So you can subtract 3v from each side. And 4 is going to equal 5v minus 6. And then you could add 6 to each side. And 10 would equal 5v. And then divide by 5. 2 is equal to v. But they didn't ask you to solve for v. They asked you for the measure of b and the measure of q. So again, you can substitute into either expression. So I'm going to take the 8 times 2 minus 6. And 8 times 2 is 16 minus 6. 16 minus 6 equals 10. So the length of those two, or the measure of those two angles, is 10. Alright, number 8. Name the angle included by the sides PN and NM. Name the angle included by the sides PN and NM. If you close your eyes and read that to yourself, that would be hard to do, to close your eyes and read it to yourself. But if you closed your eyes and I read it to you, if I said to name the angle included in the sides PN and NM, which angle is included in those two sides? PN and NM. Isn't N in both descriptions? Isn't N sitting right here? Here's side PN, right here. And here's side NM. Included angle. We said the included angle is the angle that's formed by the two sides. So that's going to be angle N. The letter that shows up in both descriptions is going to be the included angle. The picture just helps you verify it. The two triangles are congruent as suggested by their appearance. Find the value of C. C is right here. What do you think the value of C is? C is equal to 3. Tomorrow, on your quiz, you're going to be asked to find the value of all of these variables. Okay? You're going to be asked to find the value of all of the variables. And I may rotate one of the triangles and give you a congruent statement. Alright? And if I do that, you just have to find corresponding parts. Okay? And we've done that this week. This one won't be quite this easy tomorrow. Alright? Number 10. In the paper airplane, ABCD is congruent to EFGH. The measure of angle B, alright, read this here. The measure of angle B equals the measure of angle BCD, which equals 90 degrees. So B and BCD are equal to 90. So here's B. It's 90 degrees. And then BCD is 90 degrees. Those two angles are 90 degrees. BAD, this angle, is 131 degrees. Find the measure of GHE. The measure of GHE is this angle right here. Alright, angle GHE, third, fourth, and first letter in the description. GHE is going to be congruent to CDA. And CDA is right here. These two angles are congruent to each other. The two blue ones. Alright? Now, by the congruence statement, angle B, second letter, is congruent to angle F. So angle F is 90 degrees. Angle C, third letter, congruent to third letter. So C is congruent to G. Those two are the same. E and A are both the first letters in the description, so they're congruent to each other. So angle E equals 131 degrees. So now you've got four sides in this shape. Alright, it's called a quadrilateral. The sum of the angles of a quadrilateral is 360 degrees. This is a quadrilateral. Quad meaning four, four-sided polygon. Angles, sum 360. So what you've got to do in order to find the measure of GHE is to subtract. So you're going to take 360, subtract your 131, subtract one of the 90s, and then subtract the other 90. And that's going to be 360 minus 131 minus 180. 49 degrees. So the measure of angle GHE is equal to 49 degrees. Alright, the rest of your quiz will be vocabulary. So make sure you get those terms defined. And quizzes tomorrow.